They discovered the mysterious worshippers of Yahweh before Israel uncovered the shocking truth. Few knew what truly happened that night in the shadowy hills of ancient Moab. Whispers swirled amongst the campfires, crackling with urgency. The air was thick with tension, electric with uncertainty. A flicker of light caught the eye, a flickering lamp, illuminating faces filled with awe and fear. Who were these people, worshipping a god unseen, a presence felt but rarely spoken of? Deep within the dusky valley, ritualistic chants resonated, voices harmonizing in a language both foreign and strangely comforting. It was as if the very earth responded, vibrating beneath their feet, drawn into the sacred moment. These were the followers of Yahweh, yet Israel had not yet risen to prominence. Their existence was a mystery, shrouded in the veil of time and history. How had they come to know him? What did they seek in the barren landscape where the moon cast a ghostly glow upon the ages-old stones? The air was filled with spices, and sweet offerings burned on altar stones, thick smoke curling upward, mingling with the fragrant night. Creased brows and whispered prayers surrounded an ancient tree revered for ages. Every root, every branch held stories, secrets, and dreams of a people yearning for connection. Yet doubt lingered. Could this truly be the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, or was it an illusion, a trick played on the minds of the hopeful? Sudden silence swept through the gathering. A child's laughter, innocent, pure, echoed unexpectedly. Gasps replaced chants, turning surprise into an awakening moment, shaking the very ground of their beliefs. But was it a sign, or merely a fleeting distraction? How could such joy coexist with the weight of ancient rituals? Curiosity sparked in the crowd, eyes darted, anticipation hung thick in the air. Could their faithful devotion withstand the tests of confusion? In the heart of the assembly, a woman stood, her eyes reflecting both wisdom and turmoil. Would she embrace or reject the unfolding miracles that night offered? A decision loomed over her like a shroud. Each moment felt heavy with the potential for change, possibility, or disaster. Each breath drew nearer to a revelation that could alter the course of their existence, a truth hidden and longed for. But just as the tension reached a crescendo, the ground trembled, faint at first, growing into a powerful shake. Was this a warning from the heavens? A test of faith? Or an omen of calamity? The ground beneath them shifted, stone and soil calling for their attention, pushing them to confront the mystery of who they were as followers of Yahweh in a world that had not yet fully understood his name. Hey, before we continue with this amazing story, I need to give you an important heads up. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube unsubscribed them without warning. Take a quick second to check the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I'd hate for you to miss any of the exclusive content coming soon. And while you're there, smash that like button, it really helps me out with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, which city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who's part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's connect. As the trembling of the ground subsided, an electric stillness settled over the gathering. Eyes widened and hearts raced at the unexpected motion that seemed to issue from the very depths of creation. What could this mean? A collective breath was held, uncertainty forging an unspoken connection as the followers of Yahweh stood swathed in the shadows of their faith. The woman at the center, her name was Miriam, felt the weight of every gaze upon her. With a heart swollen with questions and an unyielding urge for truth, she moved through the assembled crowd, her feet carrying her toward the tree, which towered like a sentinel in the night. The roots twisted and turned, gripping the earth with an ancient promise. Could this tree be a bridge between worlds? As she approached, a low humming barely discernible began to resonate from the trunk, harmonizing with her heartbeat. She reached out tentatively, fingers brushing against the rough bark as visions flickered behind her closed eyes. She saw faces, ancestors seated at tables adorned with rich foods, laughter escaping their lips, children chasing each other, their laughter echoing like a melody, and then, shadows stretched across the figures, darkness looming with questions that pressed heavily against her being. What are we? She whispered, a query not directed at the crowd, but rather at the unseen presence. Who are we called to be? The hush was almost deafening, broken only by the distant crackle of the fading fires. Then, the voice of an elder rang out deep and resonant. We are children of the covenant, nourished by the promise bestowed upon our forefathers. We shall not stray into the chaos of doubt. Miriam gazed up, her heart aching with a longing to understand, to grasp the flickering thread of belief that tied them all to this moment. But how do we honor this God if we cannot see him? What of the signs that dance in the shadows? The elder, a man named Eliab, stepped forward, wisdom etched deeply into the lines of his face. The unseen is as real as the dawn that breaks the night. Yahweh calls us to faith, to trust what cannot always be held in our hands. The trembling we felt was his whisper. As the night carried on, the congregation found themselves locked in exploration, each voice adding to the symphony of curiosity. Where did their journey with Yahweh start, and would they be deemed worthy of the mysterious ways of the divine? The tensions slipped through their fingers like grains of sand, each thought competing for room in their minds. Hope intermingled with fear, threading through the air thick like the incense spiraling to the heavens. Miriam could feel the longing of those around her, their desperate need for a tangible connection to a deity they only grasped in fragments. In her mind swirled the visions of past generations, their sacrifices both explained and unexplainable. What faith they had, and yet, what a burden it bore! Suddenly, a rustling emerged from the trees, contradicting the stillness like a whisper of a coming storm. The eyes of the assembly fell to the source. A figure stepped forward, cloaked in a mantle of darkness, yet circled by an aura of blazing light. Who could this be, a messenger or a specter of doubt? A hot breath of urgency clutched at Miriam's throat as she wondered, would this stranger push them toward understanding or into the depths of further mystery? The crowd parted, apprehension mixing with anticipation, knowing a pivotal moment lay ahead. But the question loomed larger than before: would their fervent devotion withstand the unraveling of their beliefs? Or would this encounter shift the very fabric of their understanding of Yahweh, leading them towards an unforeseen destiny? As the figure approached, one thought echoed in Miriam's mind, unresolved and hanging before her like ripe fruit just out of reach: what must they sacrifice in order to truly understand their calling? As the figure stepped into the flickering firelight, the atmosphere hummed with an electrifying tension. The shadows danced around them, and in that moment, Miriam felt the very essence of creation holding its breath. Would the newcomer unveil hidden truths, or would they only deepen the enigma surrounding their faith? The figure, cloaked yet radiant, moved with an ethereal grace, and when he finally spoke, his voice was a blend of thunder and melody. Children of covenant, you seek understanding where mysteries linger, and your spirits tremble with questions truer than the earth beneath your feet. Miriam's heart quickened as anticipation and trepidation intertwined like the roots of the ancient tree behind her. Who are you? She dared to ask, her voice rising above the gasps of her companions. Are you a prophet, a messenger of Yahweh? The figure's smile held the warmth of a sun rising after a long night. I am but a reflection of the truths you hold close, a traveler journeying through the shadows of doubt and the light of faith. You are guided here by more than mere chance. It is your hunger for truth that has brought you to this sacred moment. The crowd leaned in, a communal yearning weaving through them, each soul thirsting for the insight that flickered just beyond their grasp. Miriam felt words rising within her, like the bubbling springs of a hidden well. What must we know to fulfill our purpose? How do we honor the God who speaks in silence? With that, the figure stretched his arms wide, inviting their attention. To know a divine promise is to step into the dance of faith, vulnerability met by strength. Before Israel was called from the shadows of Egypt, there were worshippers hidden in plain sight. Ancient practices, born of love and sacrifice, nurtured their connection to Yahweh, teaching them to read the signs of the heavens and the whispers in the wind. What practices? Someone from the assembly murmured, their curiosity ignited. Rituals of remembrance, the figure replied, gathering to share in stories, stones engraved with the marks of their experiences and faith. They offered their struggles to the fire, singing praises on nights like these, turning doubt into songs of hope. Are you prepared to remember? To uncover the treasury of collective wisdom? Miriam's heart raced as she felt the gravity of his invitation. Is it enough to simply remember? She asked, struggling to find calm amid her swirling emotions. If we delve into these ancient practices, will they lead us to understand our God? Will our offerings of remembrance suffice? The stranger paused, allowing the silence to cradle their question. To remember is to ignite. It is not solely the act but the intention behind it. As ancient fires warmed souls yearning for connection, so too can your collective memories draw the heart of Yahweh closer to your midst. But understand, mere remembrance without action is an echo without a song. Miriam's mind flickered with the visions from earlier, swirling images of ancestors, their hands raised in prayer, their voices intertwined in a mosaic of faith. Then let us gather. She called to the crowd, her voice sturdy with resolve. Let us construct our own altar of memory, the stones of our shared lives, and in doing so, offer a space for Yahweh to dwell among us. Excitement surged through the assembly, warming their hearts with a unified pulse of purpose. Yet, as they began to murmur plans for their gathering, Miriam felt a familiar tightness in her chest, a shadow of uncertainty creeping at the edges of her belief. Will this be enough? She wondered silently as the flurry of voices enveloped her. If we bridge our stories together, sewing the fragile thread of faith, can we truly capture the presence of the divine? Or will our efforts remain an intangible aspiration, forever out of reach? As the crowd buzzed, an unsettling undercurrent whispered through her thoughts, cradling her questions closely. What price would they truly pay to unravel the true nature of their faith? And would they be prepared for the revelations that lay ahead? As the assembly buzzed with anticipation, the cloaked figure watched with an intensity that cast a spell of calm over the group. His gaze, like the soothing glimmer of stars against the night sky, seemed to quell the doubts swirling within Miriam. Yet the threads of her unease remained, entangling her thoughts in a dance of longing and apprehension. She yearned for certainty, yet was acutely aware that this journey was fraught with mysteries not easily untangled. What of those who came before us, the worshippers of Yahweh? What became of their promises? Miriam's voice broke through the hum of excitement. The figure turned to her, his expression shifting into a gentle acknowledgement, as if reading the pages of her soul. The ancient ones, he mused. The seekers who walked before the weight of covenant felt heavy upon the shoulders of Israel. They danced in sacred groves, whispered prayers into the winds, and inscribed their tales on the very earth, marked like the constellations that guide travelers through darkness. Miriam listened intently, her heart thrumming with inquisitive anticipation. And what did these ancient worshippers experience? She pressed, embroidering her question with layers of hope. They knew the silence of Yahweh and the brands of His presence in their lives. Many were tucked away in the folds of the world, unrecognized by the temples, yet they sowed seeds of faith in uncharted lands. They heard the call of creation in soft breezes and saw reflections of the divine in the simplest acts of kindness. Their worship was not bound to rituals alone, it blossomed from the marrow of their everyday lives. The figure's voice, like a gentle stream, invited the assembly deeper into the fabric of their own experiences. To them, the divine touched upon the mundane. Do you not remember the stories passed down from generation to generation in your own circles? A spark ignited in Miriam's heart, illuminating thoughts of her grandmother weaving tales of old. Yes, our stories have given life to faith within our families. But how do we intertwine those threads to form a tapestry strong enough to withstand a storm? By breaking the silence among you, he encouraged, and sharing your vulnerabilities. For in your stories lie not only the triumphs but the struggles, the questions as crucial as the answers. Gather these stones, not the perfected ones, but those chipped and worn by your trials. Lay them upon your altar, and let your prayers echo through the chambers of heaven. Miriam felt her spirit soar yet again, the figure's words buoying her weary heart. She turned to the group, urging them to share their memories, to let the air pulse with their collective heritage. But as she looked around, she sensed an unseen tug of reluctance striking a chord in her chest. What if they fear their own voices? She thought. What if their stories are cloaked in shame or doubt, and cannot bear the weight of the divine? Her thoughts pressed like stones upon her heart, challenging her resolve. What if in our desire to remember, we risk unveiling the darker chapters of our ancestors' journeys, the hurt, the failures, the unanswered prayers? Are we prepared to face the shadows these truths may cast? As murmurs faded into silence, the figure regarded her thoughtfully. The journey of remembrance is rarely clean and simple. It embraces the sacred and the broken alike. Fear not the shadows, for they hold wisdom that the light may overlook. Each scar and story contributes to the unity of the divine tapestry. Will you, along with your people, allow the power of remembrance to illuminate the darkness? A profound stillness fell upon the gathering as the flickering firelight served as a witness to their vulnerable humanity. The questions Miriam harbored lingered, knotting in the fabric of solitude and communion alike. She could feel the pulse of possibility vibrating in the air, yet within her lay the somber awareness that true understanding might demand a sacrifice of comfort and certainty. Could they navigate the terrain of their shared narratives, weaving together their experiences, or would the unveiling of shadows serve as a barrier to the sacred connection they sought? The path before them loomed, uncertain yet tantalizing, pulling her onward into the enigmatic depths of faith and the mysteries waiting to be unearthed. As the embers of their fire crackled and cast dancing shadows upon the gathered faces, the cloaked figure lifted his gaze to the horizon where the first hints of dawn whispered promises. He knew that night's comforting cloak would soon yield to the raw clarity of daylight, a time when secrets might feel more exposed, and stories could emerge unadorned. "Let us delve deeper," he invited, his voice a blend of warmth and urgency. "The stories you carry are not mere echoes in the void. They are threads woven through the offered lives of those who feared and trembled, yet still sought Yahweh with the fervor of kindling flame. But tell me, what do you feel when you recount the trials and triumphs of worship beneath a sky that at times seems indifferent?" Miriam pondered this, her insides roiling with the fragility of faith's foundation. "I feel the weight of wonder and doubt. There are tales of courage that fill my spirit with hope, yet shadows remain that whisper of uncertainty. What if that courage faltered under the pressure of despair? What do the yearning prayers of our ancestors say about our present?" The figure nodded, his hooded gaze seeming to pierce the veils of time and space. "In these very moments of doubt, are you not drawn into a sacred dialogue? Each breath seeks to uncover wisdom buried within. Remember, the heart of the divine pulses through the cries of the broken-hearted just as fiercely as it does with those who bask in hope. The ancients too wrestled with questions that expanded their hearts beyond fear into the vastness of his presence." Encouraged, Miriam ventured further. "Yet, if our ancestors found him in their struggles, would that not challenge the firm grip of the traditions we cling to today? What becomes of our rigid beliefs when faced with the fluidity of such truths?" The assembly stirred at her words, and the figure's laughter, soft and melodic, melded seamlessly with the gentle rustling of leaves. "Ah, my dear Miriam, therein lies the heart of the journey. If the wisdom of Yahweh was etched within the silence of their shadows, would it not transport you to the core of his essence? The traditions, while sacred, can sometimes entrap the spirit when viewed as unchangeable." As he spoke, Miriam felt a flicker of her ancestors' strength course through her, yet it was entangled with fear, the fear of desiring too much, of questioning too deeply. But if their paths diverge from our own, what does that mean for us? Are we to challenge the narratives of those who have gone before and risk calamity? Are we equipped to understand the mysteries they unveiled? The figure stepped closer, a gentle presence amid the gathering, and mentioned softly, "All journeys bear the risk of unearthing discomfort. Each question begets truth, and each truth reshapes your understanding of the divine. You see, Miriam, the worshippers before you were not infallible. They stumbled as you do, cried out as you do, but in their quest, they found a companionship with the divine that transformed them amidst their transgressions. The covenant extends beyond righteousness, it beckons you into relationship, even within your flaws." Miriam felt the weight of his words sink into the fabric of her being, a beckoning towards something greater, and yet she hesitated. What if, upon unearthing these stories, when we meet their faults, we find ourselves lost in the chaos rather than anchored in faith? How do we carry those shadows without being consumed by them? Ah, the figure mused, his eyes glimmering with uncharted wisdom. It is here that your resolve will be tested. To step into the chaos is to embrace vulnerability as your strength. In holding your ancestors' truths, both glorious and grievous, you form a bridge to the mystery of Yahweh. Can you accept that even missteps become guiding stars when viewed through the lens of grace? The question lingered in the air, hanging like the last tendrils of night before dawn fully broke. The assembly, rapt and attentive, sensed the weight of the moment. Could they bear the burdens of their past with a spirit of grace, willing to explore the complexity of their faiths? Or would the shadows of those truths lead them into an abyss of despair? Silence wrapped them tightly in reflection, weaving an intricate fabric of anticipation. As daybreak approached and the horizon blushed with the first light of possibility, Miriam felt a stirring within her, an urge to move forward, yet tethered by an unanswerable question. Would they find liberation in their discovery, or would the unknown unravel the very threads that bound them together? As dawn broke softly over the horizon, the figures around the fire began to awaken from their reverie. The light shimmered gently upon the gathering, illuminating faces marked by reflection and wonder. Miriam looked at the encircling assembly, each face embodying the hopes and fears she had voiced. The figure of the cloaked man remained serene, his presence a continued invitation into the depths of truth. "Let us share our memories," he encouraged, gesturing to the rising sun. "For in this light, shadows cannot hide, and the essence of our tale seeks to emerge. Speak, dear ones, of those who walked before Israel, of hidden worshippers whose voices perhaps sang to the same divine presence in ways both familiar and unsettling." Elijah, a shepherd whose hands were calloused by years in the field, rose slowly. "In the land of my forefathers, we would gather at twilight to offer songs to the unseen God. Though we had no name for him, we felt his spirit among us. One night, I encountered a wild storm, and against my better judgment, I climbed to a mountain's peak to find clarity. As the winds howled, I shouted into the tempest, seeking answers that eluded me. In that furious chaos, I heard whispers of love echoing back to me, though I bore no proof of my cries. Was that Yahweh?" Miriam's heart quickened at his tale, resonating with her own struggles. "What did you do with that experience?" she pressed, captivated by the uncharted territory of Elijah's spiritual journey. He shrugged slightly, somewhat embarrassed. "I hesitated. I returned to the traditions of my people, feeling the weight of their expectations. I clung to their songs of praise while the storm within me brewed. The memory became a mere flicker of uncertainty, a burden I tucked away rather than embraced." The cloaked figure, nodding empathetically, prompted, "But what if those whispers in the storm hold lessons of their own? Might they explain the divine rhythm by which your ancestors danced? Could they be woven into the fabric of your faith today?" Miriam sensed the ripples of inquiry take hold among the gathering. What if hidden truths from the past helped to shape our understanding now? She wondered aloud. Perhaps we are not just receivers of wisdom but also interpreters of a legacy that is alive and evolving. Deborah, a wise woman known for her keen insight, leaned forward. "Then the question evolves, does it not? How do we discern the sacred amidst the secular? How do we differentiate between the divine murmurs from our own desires and fears? When our ancestors found Yahweh outside tradition, did they not walk a line fraught with danger?" The figure chuckled softly, a kind of mirth that invited trust. "Ah, to navigate such lines is what it means to be a true seeker. Those whispers you long for, those stories of hidden worshippers, belong to the liminal space where fear and faith intersect. May they illuminate not only who you were, but who you can become. Can you perceive divine movement even in the mere flickers of uncertainty?" The air thickened with contemplation. Miriam's heart danced with trepidation. Yet if we dare to venture into this uncharted territory, how do we know what is truly of Yahweh and what is born of our longing to control our narratives? A profound silence followed. The assembly's collective breath seemed to intertwine with the advancing light, the dawn symbolizing new beginnings. Each participant felt the weight of expectation and possibility. The cloaked figure's eyes sparkled with a knowing twinkle, as if he understood well the struggle that entwined within them. "Miriam, within that ambiguity lies a sacred trust," he articulated, his voice gentle yet penetrating. "To question is to engage, to seek is to rediscover the divine. Your forebears found Yahweh not by attaching themselves solely to tradition but by venturing into the space where doubt and hope coexisted. Do you dare to walk in that tension? What new meanings await you in the unknown?" As these questions hung in the brightening air, Miriam felt the stirrings of courage and curiosity in her chest. The journey before them remained enshrouded in mystery, an invitation laden with potential. Could they navigate the rugged paths of faith without falling victim to despair? Or would the beauty of their inquiry illuminate the divine in ways they had yet to fathom? As the sun climbed higher, casting a warm glow over the assembly, Miriam felt a subtle shift in the air, as if the very atmosphere was charged with hidden knowledge. Each heart gathered around the fire was aflame with questions, and she felt compelled to probe deeper into their shared past. The cloaked figure, his presence unwavering, looked toward Deborah. You carry wisdom that attempts to weave together tradition and revelation. What have your own musings uncovered about the worshippers of Yahweh who walked before Israel? Deborah's brow furrowed as she considered. In fragments of story passed down through generations, there were people who worshipped the divine without the confines of the tabernacle, or temple. I have heard tales from distant lands of those who called upon a name unspoken, who gathered under stars to commune with a higher power. These accounts danced in the shadows, obscured by time and distance, yet they resonated with the essence of faith. They knew of Yahweh, but they also understood His presence in the ebb and flow of nature, in the harmony of life. Might they have encountered Him through the natural world? Elijah's inquiry cut through the silence. What if there were paths to the divine that departure from our established ways? Miriam's mind raced with images of open fields and serene mountains, where personal encounters with the sacred were not hindered by doctrine. Could it be that their understanding was richer for its lack of rigid structure? What if they sang songs of praise to the Most High as they nurtured the earth, feeling the pulse of creation? The cloaked figure nodded, impressed by her reflections. Yes, indeed. In their wild worship, they discerned a rhythm of spirit that transcended the limitations of language and form. They felt the heartbeat of the universe aligning with the fervor of their souls, reminding us of the ever-present invitation to engage with the divine in myriad ways. Perhaps their voices remain with us, waiting to weave strands into our journey. Were they ever heard by the system we now inhabit? Or were they lost to the fabric of history? Deborah asked, her tone reflective yet probing. Did their stories influence Israel's path, even if we do not recognize them? As if welcoming the weight of the question, the cloaked figure took a contemplative breath. To ponder their impact invites a consideration of our own legacy. Each generation carries the whispers of those who came before, even if we do not acknowledge their origin. The question remains, what stories are we silencing today in the pursuit of our own narratives? The group fell into a pensive silence, reflecting on what they might be straying from by binding their faith to tradition alone. Miriam's heart stirred with questions. Whereas before, she felt cautious about venturing beyond the known, now a glimmer of adventure sparked within her. Were these worshippers perhaps misfits, existing on the fringes, or were they trailblazers learning to walk alongside the divine in a dance of discovery? She mused aloud, longing to draw connections between these ancient souls and their own lives. Elijah looked at her, his expression revealing a flicker of understanding. Perhaps we too are on the edge, beckoned to redefine our faith beyond established forms. Yet what if that edge crumbles beneath us? What if we stumble into realms that challenge our very beliefs? Miriam pondered this deeply. The complexity of faith began to reveal itself as a tapestry woven with threads of doubt, courage, and a relentless search for truth. If our ancestors danced with uncertainty, embracing the edges between the seen and unseen, can we do the same? She asked, her voice a whisper that resonated with the others. The cloaked figure released a soft, knowing chuckle, as if to affirm their collective journey into the unknown. Indeed, my friends, the space between faith and doubt is where profound revelation often lies. Can you see the beauty in uncertainty? Might you not only embrace those hidden stories, but find your place among them, forever intertwined in the narrative of divine pursuit, with the warmth of the sun enveloping them and the significance of their gathering sinking in? Miriam's mind began to whirl with new possibilities and unresolved questions. What lessons might they learn from those who beckoned the presence of Yahweh amid the wildness of creation? Could their understanding of faith deepen as they ventured into this uncharted territory? And if so, what truths might remain concealed just beneath the surface of their inquiry? As twilight descended upon the assembly, an ethereal glow enveloped the gathering, casting long shadows that danced in unison with their flickering firelight. It was a time suspended between day and night, a moment ripe for discovery. Miriam sensed an invitation in the air, urging them to delve deeper into the mysteries that bound them to their ancestors. Elijah shifted closer to the fire, embers brightening his contemplative expression. If we are to consider those who worshipped in the wild, we must also confront the layers of our own belief. Were these individuals mere bystanders in the saga of faith, or were they perhaps the architects of a deeper understanding? His questioning bore an intensity that hung in the air like incense, rich and alluring. The cloaked figure regarded him with a gentle smile, eyes glimmering with ancient wisdom. Think not of them as mere background figures. They were seekers navigating a world filled with uncertainty and awe. They sought answers in whispers of the wind, the rustle of leaves, and the silent watch of the stars. To ponder their existence is to uncover the very root of our spiritual ancestry, the idea that God can be known not solely through doctrine but through dialogue forged in the heartbeat of the world. Deborah, her curiosity ignited, leaned forward. What if we view these worshippers not as relics of the past, but as inspiration from whom we can learn? They might teach us how to glean understanding from our surroundings, recognizing divinity in unexpected places. Is it possible that our rigid practices have dulled our awareness? Miriam reflected on this, her heart thrumming with resonance. If we can reclaim the wonder that these ancient ones embraced, might we see the rhythms of life as sacred? Is it too audacious to think that the wisdom of the divine could be reflected in the laughter of children, or the sorrow of the oppressed? The cloaked figure nodded. Indeed. Each moment is a canvas upon which the divine paints with broad strokes. However, like the wisps of a fading dream, these connections can sometimes slip from our grasp. It requires intention to confront the familiar with fresh eyes, blending the lessons of the past with our modern reality. As the stars began to twinkle above them, Miriam felt a sudden surge of longing. Yet she hesitated. What if in our pursuit of a more liberated faith, we lose the essence of what has grounded us for generations? How can we bridge the gap between ancient wisdom and our present uncertainties without losing our way? Elijah ventured to address her doubt, the fire casting glimmers across his face. Perhaps our strength lies not in holding on to certainty as if it were a lifeline, but in recognizing both the shadows and light that encompass our journeys. Like the worshippers of old, can we not remain anchored while simultaneously exploring the vastness that faith can encompass? Miriam's thoughts spiraled, wrestling with the realities of tradition, challenging the wildness of faith. But is not the wildness a risk in itself? What if we step too far into the unknown and find something we did not anticipate? Something dangerous? That risk, dear Miriam, the cloaked figure responded, is inescapable. Faith is, in many ways, the act of trusting in the unfolding mystery. While it is tempting to confine our spirituality to a safe mold, true growth is often found by daring to tread the uncharted paths. A hush fell over the group. Each person was left to wrestle with the tension between comfort and challenge, the known and unknown. The night deepened, and the flames flickered like the hopes and fears in their hearts. What if the wisdom of the past was not just a whisper in the wind, but a clarion call to begin a conversation about how to forge a new way forward? Might tomorrow bring not only questions but opportunities to experience the divine beyond restrictive norms? As they sat in quiet contemplation, the air thick with mystery, a lingering thought escaped Miriam's lips. In seeking these answers, how do we ensure that we remain not just as spectators of history, but as active participants in the unfolding narrative of faith? As the firelight waned, revealing the embers that pulsed like distant stars, the group fell into a reflective silence. The air was thick with the weight of unasked questions, the kind that stir in the deeper recesses of the heart. It was in this stillness that Miriam noticed a subtle shift in the energy around them. The cloaked figure's presence seemed more pronounced, as if drawing upon the very fabric of time. "Tell us more," Miriam urged, her voice barely above a whisper. "These ancient worshippers, how did they connect with the divine? What does their legacy mean for us?" The figure adjusted its cloak thoughtfully, and the shadows danced anew as they began to share. In the days before the establishment of a kingdom, long before laws were inscribed upon stone tablets, there existed a communion with the Creator that was raw and unfiltered. These seekers roamed the earth, guided by intuition rather than doctrine, and their faith was intertwined with the rhythms of nature. They listened deeply to the song of the earth and the whisper of their souls. Elijah, emboldened by the narrative, interjected, "But what compelled them to wander? What drove them to seek?" Surely there was a fear of the uncertain, A risk in stepping beyond the familiar. A profound yearning, the figure replied, was their compass. They understood that existence was deeply woven into a tapestry of divine relationships. Their fears were real, yet they turned those fears into prayers, allowing uncertainty to fuel their quest rather than hinder it. They dared to invite the unknown into their lives, trusting that the Creator would unveil their way, even amidst chaos. Deborah's brow furrowed. If we adopt this wandering spirit in our current world, how might we engage with one another? Could we embrace a collective uncertainty and seek answers together? Such a journey cannot be made alone, the cloaked figure replied, for it takes a community to hold one another as they explore the unknown. Imagine a tapestry of voices, each thread unique yet intertwined, creating a richer, more vibrant picture of faith. When doubt and joy mingle, transformation is born. Miriam's mind raced with possibilities. The image of a vibrant tapestry unfurling in the depths of her spirit was both beautiful and daunting. But how do we start? How do we become those active participants in a story that feels so grand, so daunting? The figure paused, allowing time for the flame's glow to illuminate their faces. It begins by reclaiming that which is sacred in the everyday. Embrace the ordinary moments as opportunities to hear the heartbeat of the divine. Engage in rituals that connect you not just with the past, but with one another. Listen to the land, the laughter of your children, the cries for justice among your neighbors. Every act of love, every moment of vulnerability, is a step toward understanding the sacred. As thoughts swirled like the smoke that danced upward into the darkened sky, Miriam considered how often she had been too quick to draw boundaries around her faith. In seeking to embrace a world filled with wonder and risk, how do we ensure we do not stray into despair? What if our exploration leads us to places of darkness, instead of revelation? The cloaked figure regarded her with a mix of empathy and solemnity. Every journey carries its shadows. There is beauty in facing the darkness, for it is there we often find the richest truths. These truths may uncover our fears, but also our resilience. Remember, it is in the very act of questioning that the light begins to filter through. The night deepened around them, and the air thrummed with possibilities. The figure's words resonated within Miriam, a soft but persistent echo of hope urging her onward. Then how do we ensure that our questions pave the way for connection rather than division? As the flames flickered one last time, swallowing the glowing embers, the question hung in the air, charged with anticipation. What if the journey into the depths of faith was as transformative as the answers they sought? Might it unravel a narrative where every inquiry opened new doors, leading them ever closer to understanding the sacred dance of creation? As dawn began to unfurl its golden hues across the terrain, a palpable sense of expectation enveloped the gathering. The cloaked figure, still radiant in the early light, illuminated not only the faces around him, but also the contours of faith itself, filled with uncertainty yet brimming with promise. Miriam sensed the air humming with the collective heartbeat of the assembly, alive with a sacred urgency to explore the depths of their inquiry. Let us gather the fragments of our own stories, the figure invited, his voice a gentle summoning, and weave them into the tapestry of faith you seek. His words acted like a catalyst, igniting the assembly into motion. Miriam felt a stirring in her chest. We are ready, but the shadows we carry feel so heavy. Will they not weigh against the light we long to embrace? She asked, vulnerability and urgency threading through her voice. The figure turned toward her, his eyes bright with understanding. It is in the courageous act of bringing forth your shadows that you illuminate the unity between grace and truth. Each struggle shared adds texture to your story. It deepens the bond of understanding among you. Embrace it as the sacred gift it is. You were never meant to bear these shadows alone. With renewed purpose, the assembly formed a circle, hands clasped together like strands of a tight-knit fabric. One by one, they began to recount their tales, each story a brushstroke upon the canvas of their shared journey. Deborah spoke first. There was a time, she began, her voice steady yet laced with emotion, when I lost my way in the demands of tradition. Though I had grown up hearing stories of the divine, I began to feel it all slip through my fingers. I remember standing in the fields during a harvest, surrounded by the beauty of creation, and feeling utterly disconnected. In that moment of despair, I called out to Yahweh, not with grand words but with my very heart raw and bare. Miriam watched as Deborah's eyes shone with tears. In that moment, I felt the earth respond, as if my cries reverberated through the soil. From that space of aching honesty, I found a fellowship with Yahweh that transcended any ritual. It was there that my faith began to breathe again. Elijah, inspired by Deborah's openness, added his voice. In my youth, chased by the uncertainties of what lay before me, I wandered into a forest one night. Alone with my thoughts, I stumbled upon an ancient oak. Its gnarled branches reached toward the stars, and it seemed to know secrets unseen. I felt dwarfed by its presence, yet cherished in an embrace of wisdom. There, as I laid my hand upon the bark, I cried for understanding, for clarity among chaos. To my surprise, I felt the oak quiver in the gentle rustle of leaves, Yahweh's whisper amidst the wind guiding me toward my purpose. The stories kept flowing, each one resonating with a collective heartbeat, unraveling more layers of their shared history. They spoke of doubt met with tenacity, of prayer emerging in the quiet of grief, of love shared amidst fear, of moments when the divine felt distant, yet undeniably real. Each account echoed within the others, each vulnerability brightly illuminating the darkness that lingered at the edges. As Miriam listened, a profound truth sank into her being. The shadows they feared were the very vessels that could carry them to deeper revelations, united in the sacred pursuit of the divine. The act of storytelling became an altar of remembrance, sturdy enough to cradle the fortitude of their ancestors' faith. When the circle turned to Miriam, she felt the weight of expectation and encouragement. "I have wandered too," she started, her voice unsteady yet passionate. "There have been nights when doubt flashed like lightning across my heart. I wondered if my questions would fracture the foundations laid before me, forcing me into an abyss where the divine was a mere ghost. Yet, like Deborah, I discovered amidst that pain a yearning to seek what was hidden, to engage my own doubts as questions rather than shackles. A warm breeze swept through them, almost as if gathering their offerings to weave across the land. To acknowledge my fears has birthed a new understanding of faith within me. It is not merely the absence of doubt but the willingness to encounter it, to dance among the shadows even when the light seems far away." As she spoke, the cloaked figure's expression glimmered with pride and wisdom. "You are awakening to a truth profoundly rooted in the legacy of all who worship Yahweh before you, a truth that embraces the invitation to explore in the midst of doubt, to trust the mystery even as you question it." Miriam felt a warmth expand through her chest, buoyed by the embrace of her community. The figure dropped his hood, revealing a visage illuminated by the dawn, no longer mere shadows but the essence of ancient worshippers flowing through humanity, reminding her that she was never alone. "The divine is not confined to the ways you have come to know him," he said softly, "but woven into the fabric of every whispering tree, every fleeting moment of connection. In the stillness that followed, a vibrant recognition seated itself among them. The assembly breathed as one, nourished by a revelation. It was the shared journey of doubt and discovery that fed their understanding of faith, a journey begun not merely in the sacredness of tradition but in the vulnerability of their lived experiences. As light broke fully upon them, transforming the horizon into a canvas of colors, the cloaked figure raised his hands to the sky, his voice resonating like distant thunder. "This is your moment of transformation, the invitation to cultivate a faith that blooms wild and free, unfettered by fear of losing your foundation. Embark on the extraordinary expedition to seek Yahweh in the radiance of both question and answer. Create new paths of worship alongside those that have endured. Forge your story into the legacy of reverence that recognizes divinity in every breath." With a newfound resolve, Miriam grasped the hands of her companions, feeling the warmth of their faith interlocked with each of their stories. Together they formed an unyielding bond, carved from the vulnerabilities they had each dared to share. As they stood there beneath the canopy of stars fading into light, Miriam knew that this gathering would sow seeds that would flourish for generations, intertwining their experiences with every hidden worshipper who came before them. The divine had woven them into a tale far more beautiful than any singular narrative, a truth that flickered with the possibilities of faith fully alive, dancing even in the shadows. In their awakening, they realized that even when darkness loomed, the presence of Yahweh echoed within their whispers, carried on the winds of time. They stood not just as witnesses of history but as architects of the tapestry woven with threads of honesty, connection, and resolute courage. As they silently pledged to continue their pursuit, dreams sprawling across the horizon like the promise of dawn, Miriam felt the spark of revelation ignite her soul. Faith was not simply the absence of doubt, but a journey crafted through understanding that each question, each story, each voice mattered profoundly in the dance of seeking the divine. In unity, their journey would pave the way forward, an echo of ancient whispers alive in the heart of a new covenant, forever unfolding.